to make it. Alrighty. So, welcome. The plan today, we're going to do a presentation. It's very brief, and then get a chance to talk with hopefully each of you about some next steps you can take to really get involved with bike and pedestrian advocacy in Pittsburgh. And we got a couple more people joining us too, which is great. Hi, KTH and Tyler. I'm going to share my screen, and we are going to jump in here. Let me introduce myself. My name is Seth Bush. I'm the advocacy manager at Bike Pittsburgh. My job is really to support people like you in neighborhoods all across the city to get involved in our movement for complete streets. I'm going to share a little bit about our network of bike and pedestrian advocates that we have all over the city and how you can get involved in being part of that. Speaking of KTH and Tyler, something that would help me out a lot is if you can add your neighborhood to your name on Zoom, so I can just kind of see that at a glance and be able to help you out as best as possible as we go here and kind of know where folks are joining from. So as we're looking at this, looking at my screen here, we're talking about complete streets. We're talking about our movement for complete streets. And so I'd love to hear from folks. What are complete streets? Like if you were to give a definition for complete streets based off of what you know already, what would that be? Anybody can speak up.
It's a street that, everybody can access safely and everyone can be safe on it.
The operative term there being everyone, not just drivers. Unfortunately, the streets are very fine-tuned for drivers and drivers to go fast. Anybody else have something to add about what is a complete street? What does that look like?
Uh, I think, yeah, sort of what TJ said, but a street that's like designed for all types of transportation and ideally also a variety of accessibility options. Like if someone's on a wheelchair or if someone has difficulty walking, then hopefully the street is designed so that they feel as safe and they can use the street.
I'm so glad you mentioned accessibility. That's something that's so important to me. Like a big reason that I'm in this work is my mom's blind. She doesn't live here in Pittsburgh, but she's about to. She's about to move here, and I want streets where she can feel like she can get around with her guide dog safely, not bumping into things or tripping off curbs or being worried about getting hit by a driver, right? It's not just for cyclists. Even though our name is Bike Pittsburgh, it's really about creating streets for everybody to have a good time and get where they need to safely. It's an approach, right? Complete Streets is an approach to planning, designing, building streets that enable safe access for all users, including pedestrians, bicyclists, yes, motorists, and transit riders of all ages and abilities. So it's going from this, I'm showing a picture of Penn and Center right by the Target, which is just a hot mess that I think especially our friends in Shadyside and Highland Park know very well how dangerous this is, and turning into something that looks a little bit more like this street that's on the screen right now. This is from the Complete Streets policy website that I could share later, but it's a street that is designed for all users, marked crosswalks, narrower travel lanes for cars, clear bike lanes, protected bike lanes, a space that is really safer for all people. And so Bike Pittsburgh, we are about creating a city that is rich in complete streets. We're a nonprofit organization, been doing this work since 2002, not just in the city, but really across Allegheny County, sometimes even further beyond. And our work is transforming our streets to make biking and walking and active transportation commonplace for all Pittsburghers in order to improve our quality of life and to reduce the harmful effects of car dependence in our communities. We really envision that Pittsburgh where people can thrive without needing to own a car. I've already talked to a couple of you that have this goal, this mission to be as car light or car free as possible. And we want to do that and make Pittsburgh a world-class leader in clean, affordable, convenient transportation. Oh, we got Owen joining us here too. And so we do that through three pillars of our work. We're going to talk a lot more about advocacy today, but we also have our community and education element. So we do a lot of events out in the community, really helping people feel like, oh, I'm not the only one trying to be car free in this city. Not the only biker, not the only walker. So we do events like Open Streets, Pedal Pittsburgh, our women Bike PGH events for women and non-binary people, Bike to Work Day for our commuters. We, of course, have our membership program, which I encourage everybody here to become a member. We're actually leveling up our perks recently, so you can get some discounts at coffee shops and bike shops and all sorts of good stuff, so you can really feel like you're part of that biking and walking community in Pittsburgh. And we do our education programming. So we actually teach programs in schools and outside of schools so people can be more confident learning to bike and being on their bike and getting around on their bike. Yeah, you can check out our website for all sorts more information on that. Um, I'd like to actually right now shift away from the presentation and show you our advocacy website, because that is really the place that you can go to get all sorts of useful information about advocacy for biking and walking in the city. So this is just off of our main BikePGH.org homepage. You can get to all the typical menus there. But what I want to show you first is on our landing page. You might want to check out some of our wins, some of the things that our advocacy has accomplished. And we have a lot of things here, but I think what's really exciting is to go to concrete change. And actually, you can see some of the projects we worked on last year. But we have these sliders for previous projects that I think are really cool to see. What did, say, Liberty Ave downtown used to look like? What does it look like today? We've got Bigelow Boulevard in Oakland. It's one of our first raised crosswalks in the city and really thoroughly thought out complete streets. Brighton Road features, you can see, one of our first parking protected bike lanes in the city, which I think is really exciting. There's a lot more stuff on here. So give it a peek, kind of scroll through it, see what we've accomplished, get inspired for projects that you might be able to do in your own community. And then I'll also show you from that homepage, you can check out some of our current campaigns. Now, Bike Pittsburgh, we work at a couple of different levels. And so our bread and butter is working with these neighborhood bike and pedestrian advocacy groups we call bike ped committees all over the city and all over the county, working in your neighborhoods to really advocate for the change that you want to see. And we also have these campaigns that Bike Pittsburgh at a kind of higher level throws our weight behind. For example, Safe Trips in the Strip is about creating safer connections from Lawrenceville to downtown for cyclists, because a lot more people than who live in the Strip end up going through that area. For a long time, we didn't even have that many residents in the Strip, which is why this campaign started, because there weren't a lot of people living over there. That's changed a lot in the past few years. But that's heating up right now. So definitely check out that campaign. You'll be hearing from me, inviting you to some public meetings. There's actually a way to sign up on our email list on that page. So specifically for this campaign, that's heating up. So check that out. Some information about Vision Zero, the goal of which is we got some funding for the city and the county to develop a plan to get our area, to get our region to zero traffic deaths by a date certain. We haven't set that date yet. The city has even yet to actually formally commit, but that is coming up next. And we'll be inviting people in our advocacy community to play a role in making sure that the city creates a clear, comprehensive plan for, yes, more bike lanes and also safer streets for pedestrians and people in wheelchairs and people who ride the bus across the board. Because I don't know if you've noticed, but the number of pedestrian fatalities and injuries and cyclist fatalities and injuries is really climbing in a very scary, concerning way in the past 5 years or so. And so we need a plan to do something about that. Protect Pedestrians is about making sure getting people to stop parking on the sidewalks. Parking protected bike lanes, we're working on state level policy to make sure that that is legal for all streets in the state, not just on city owned streets. And we do some work around election season when that comes up as well. Evan, I see you're joined by a new friend too. Hi, new friend. um, so that's just a really quick tour of our website. Some of the things that you can see in terms of what it is we're working on, what you could be working on. But as I said earlier, even though we do a lot of work at Bike Pittsburgh at kind of a high level, really you are vital to the success of our movement for complete streets, for safer streets. And we have these neighbors that are working together in advocacy groups. Again, we call them bike ped committees across the region on their own campaigns and programs to make biking, walking, rolling both safer and more commonplace in their community. So some activities that you might do with your bike ped committee. Some of you, I will say, just looking at the list, most of you have a bike ped committee in your area. A couple of you don't right now. And so we'll talk about that in a minute. So as I'm sharing this list, you might think, ooh, what are the things that I would want to do with neighbors? And if you're interested, I am so game to help you start your own bike pet advocacy group, even if that means meeting over beers or coffee and talking about issues and saying, do we want to do something about it, right? It often starts small in that way. But some things that the really established groups do, um, surveying community members about what infrastructure changes they desire, advocating for that change by making the case to local government. We use a tactic often of advocating to city council people and even borough council people to get projects in the budget. We actually have a workshop coming up on February 22nd about how do you take your idea and get it into the capital budget for the city so that it's actually funded, because nothing's going to actually happen unless we throw some money behind it and make sure there's some money behind it. So that's a big chunk of what bike ped committees do. Also demonstrating the benefits of that change through creative tactics and events. For example, Shady Side does this awesome event some of you might have seen called Shady Side Summer Sundays. They did it last year. I'm hoping they do it again this year, where they actually block off a big chunk of Walnut and effectively pedestrianize it for the day to showcase what would it be like if this was for pedestrians and people full time with no cars. What would that be like? So a lot of groups do some fun events like that just to showcase the benefits of the things they're acting for. And of course, just having a good time, going on rides, walks that might be to scout out problem areas and showcase issues or just for fun. I think we have somebody from Northside, if I remember correctly. Northside has been holding some awesome rides. I know Southside does this, Shady Side does this, just having a good time and enjoying being outside together. Um, and these groups usually meet every 1 to 2 months to do the work to make it all happen. So it's not like huge commitment. Of course, if you're interested in getting involved in leadership, a lot happens behind the scenes between the meetings. But frankly, if you're just getting involved, showing up to the meetings, being present, getting involved in the community is a really strong first step. And this is where our bike ped committees exist. So I'm showing a picture right now. It's a map of our bike and pedestrian advocacy groups with, it's actually our bike map that might be familiar to some of you. And it shows the different bike and ped advocacy groups all over the city. So I'm going to take this slideshow down in just a moment here, but take a look, take a moment and see if you can find the bike ped committee that is in your area and kind of commit that to memory. And then I'm going to take the screen down and check in and say, like, what are you noticing? And, do you have a group in your area? So take a look for a second here. Do you find your group? And I'm going to take it down and pull us all up on gallery view. And it might help me for folks who are off camera to come on camera, but just raise your hand, whether it's digitally or physically. Who sees a group in your area? Nice. Troy Hill, you actually do have a group. It might not be immediately obvious. It's Walk Ride North Side. Technically encompasses Troy Hill, Carrie. But we can talk about that in a second. So most of these groups actually have an email list or a way to stay in touch with interested neighbors. And I want to just kind of go around and share a little bit about each one that I kind of see listed here and some hands raised. So I think we have Owen here in Lawrenceville. Neighborhoods are actually getting cut off. I think that's it for Lawrenceville. But Owen, Lawrenceville is super active. They've been actually, I'm sad I should have shared with you. They actually had their meeting just yesterday, where they were talking about a bunch of really interesting projects. They're very involved in this Safe Trips to the Strip campaign. They also just released a report on a survey that they did about what are the issues that they're seeing in the community. Have you connected with them at all yet, Owen?
I have not. No.
Okay. So I'm going to put a link to in the chat. It's Better Streets Lawrenceville, and I think that'll take you. It didn't hyperlink, but you should be able to copy and paste it, and that should take you to the right place. And you can sign up for their email
Okay,
list.
awesome. Thank you.
Yeah. So definitely check that out. Armin is the guy who leads those meetings. He's awesome. Um, yeah. How does that sound for reaching out to them?
Yeah, sounds good. I'll plan on doing that.
Awesome. Kiri, you're over in Troy Hills. Are you familiar with Walk Ride Northside? Have you heard about them yet?
Sorry, background things happening. No, I haven't. I am very new to the area though, so I don't know anything of anything. So that's great that they have one.
Well, welcome to Pittsburgh. I hear
Thank you.
from your accent that you might be coming from quite far away to our hilly city.
Yes, from the UK.
Fantastic. We're so glad to have you. Um,
Thank you.
yeah. So Walk Ride Northside, they also have an Instagram. If you just search them on Instagram, they post even more about their rides and their meetings and their events. They often meet over at Allegheny Brewing Company down on East Ohio Street. They
Sounds like an
cover
excellent place.
Yeah, they cover a lot of territory. So something that I would recommend is go to their meeting and kind of ask some questions about like, hey, what are you doing in Troy Hill? And if you, Kiri, have some specific ideas, bring it to them. And they're connected with a broader organization called the Northside Leadership Conference. And they can even plug you in with your local community organization in Troy Hill. I know there is one where you can bring some of those ideas, and Walk Ride Northside can help you maybe advocate for some specific changes you want to see, or maybe you just want to hang out with them and learn the ropes and see what's going on. I'm actually meeting with their leader tomorrow, Jenny, and so I can let her know that I talked to you and to look out for your information.
Thank you. That's great. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Shady Side crew, y'all have a lot of great stuff going on as well. I already mentioned Shady Side Summer Sundays. Um, Shadyside Complete Streets is the name of the group over there. And by the way, none of these groups are like officially part of Bike Pittsburgh. All of these bike ped groups are their own autonomous, separate groups with their own structure and way of making decisions. And each one does things a little bit differently. We're just here to help and network and bring people together. So, you know, it's kind of cool, I think, the way that we've created this network. But there's the link to get on their Google group. They're very active. And Adam and Leah are the two people who do a lot of the leadership over there. So you'll definitely hear from them. If you get on that Google group, you'll hear announcements about things. I'll say now too is if you go to bikepgh.org/advocacy/calendar, this is for everyone. You can see our civic calendar, and that posts um, all of the bike ped committee meetings that I know about that are happening across the city. So you can go there and find events and find meetings in your area. So that's worth checking out. Let's see. Tyler is in Stanton Heights. They've got a great group called Morningside Stanton Heights Livable Streets. Have you heard of them, Tyler?
I'm aware of them. I haven't engaged with them yet. So
They're actually doing a lot of work in collaboration with Highland Park East Liberty's Bike Ped Committee right now because they've been working together on bike lanes on Stanton Ave. And so they got the bike lanes up in the hill through Morningside, and now they're working on extending the bike lanes all the way from Chislett to Heberton, down by Dilworth School. TJ, this is definitely relevant to you as well. So check them out. Definitely get on their list. They also meet about once a month. Alex is the person who leads their group. Alex Torok is definitely good to be in touch. I just put the
I'm
link.
I'm also curious. I saw on the map that there was a Shaler group. My office is relocating to that giant Westinghouse facility that's on
Yeah,
Bridge Street there. And I know that there are a lot of employees that are asking about what do we do about biking
cool.
there. So I'm curious about that group as well to make sure that Westinghouse employees there are getting to work safely, things like that.
There's a group that's been a little quiet recently, but they actually formed a nonprofit to get some funding to develop a complete streets policy over in Shaler. I'm not exactly sure where they are, but if you send me an email, I can connect you with the people who lead that to kind of find out where things are at. They might even be grateful for some renewed interest.
Okay,
So,
do you know anything about Aetna specifically by chance?
Mark Shibnall, the name is I'm blanking on the name right now. But if you email, I can make sure to get it for you.
Okay, great. Yeah, because we're mostly in the Etna area, and we're gonna have people coming in to Etna from like Lawrenceville and stuff like that. I know the R.D. Fleming Bridge is pretty hostile, but I know there's an initiative to get Etna connected with like Millvale and all that stuff. So, however, however I can support that and help get the Etna community a bit more connected, I'd like to support that.
Awesome. Awesome. Love it. Cool. Yeah, please email me. We can hook that up. Larry, are you connected with Southside Smart Streets at all?
No, I am not. Not yet.
Not yet. Well, here's their email. Definitely reach out, introduce yourself. They can then get you on their list from there. I don't have the direct link to get on their list, but Tom and Bill are the two leaders there. They often meet once, I think at least once a month on Wednesday evenings. Um, and I can send you their you can go to our civic calendar to see when their meetings are, the link I put in earlier.
Okay.
They're working on a lot of cool stuff, especially like connecting some of the bike lanes parallel to Carson Street. What part of Southside are you in? Are you in the flats or the slopes?
I am right on the edge of the slopes down near
Cool.
30th.
They're working on getting a bike lane and also just some better pedestrian infrastructure on 18th Street. They've been working on that for ages, but to actually help people get up the slopes. Are you a cyclist?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. So that might be a benefit to you if 18th Street had a better bike connection, I bet. So that's a big thing that they're working on. I'm sure they'd love to connect with you.
Thank you.
Yeah, and they do rides too. They have a good time. Let me see here. Melinda, I already shared Shady Side Complete Street, so I think you're covered. TJ, have you gotten a chance to connect with the Highland Park folks yet?
Yeah, yeah. The meeting is in like 2 weeks, I think. So I'll
Awesome.
be there. Mhm.
It was just this is for Morningside and Stanton Heights and Highland Park. I literally just minutes before this got an email from the city. It looks like they're going to have that public meeting about the bike lanes on March 13th. TBD what the venue is going to be exactly, but that'll probably be around 6 p.m. on March 13th. So mark your calendars. We need to show up and make sure that there's a clear call for bike lanes along Stanton Ave. You'll be hearing a lot more from us on that, but make sure that that's getting on your calendar.
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
I think, is there anybody who I didn't help out? Sheila, I think you're in North Oakland, right?
Yeah, I am. Also, sorry about the video. My camera just
That's okay.
not functioning, so I keep turning it on and it just goes off.
All as well. So there used to be a very active group in Oakland called the Oakland Green Team, as
Mhm.
part of Oakland Planning and Development Corporation. Are you familiar with OPDC?
No, I'm not. Are they behind like some of the changes to Shenley Plaza, like the mini golf and stuff?
I'm sure they've had a voice in it.
Uh-huh.
They're the registered community organization. I think that's probably another group.
Hmm.
There's so many forces at play over in Oakland, as I'm sure you know.
Yeah.
So it's hard to tell exactly who's involved in what. But um, yeah, there is not currently a very active group over in Oakland, but we're talking
Hmm.
about holding a summit in probably September as people are coming back to campus and
Hmm.
kind of starting the school year fresh. That's bringing together residents and commuters to Oakland who bike and also just get around with active transportation to talk about the plans that have been established for Oakland and how can we specifically advocate for some projects. So keep an eye out for that. I'll definitely make sure to invite you to that as that comes along. And I think we're going to do some webinars on like, there's so much conversation has already happened about active mobility in Oakland, but not a lot of action has happened. So the pandemic kind of threw a wrench in a lot of things. Um, it's difficult in Oakland because there's so much transience with students kind of appearing and then disappearing, and so maintaining leadership is very difficult. I'll ask you this question though, Sheil. Would you be interested in like putting some elbow grease into helping start an advocacy group? It's
It
okay.
scares me a little bit, but honestly, yeah, a bit because I like this. I love this neighborhood. I also went to undergrad like in the area, so I was one of the students. Now I've moved back here, and me and a lot of my friends like we're like former students who live in and around the area. So got a couple friends in Shady Side, got but like straight up yes, because I commute to downtown from Oakland on the Pogo e-bikes and I love it, but it's not as safe as it could be, and I feel like there's things that we could do to make it safer so that
Totally.
it becomes like a viable option for people. Because I really like my commute, but I'm also like willing to deal with the risks.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Fortunately, it's about to get better. With bus rapid transit coming in, they're actually going to be building bike lanes down along Forbes and Fifth through the
Oh,
hill
that's amazing.
town. Yeah, it's going to be really cool. That's going to be a game changer. It's still probably a year or two out, but
Mhm.
yeah, there's a lot more work that needs to happen in Oakland. I'm thinking Bates and down in South Oakland as well. Ooh. Um,
Yeah, I tend not to go too far into South Oakland on the
yeah.
bikes. Yeah.
Well, I will follow up with you, Sheil, and we can talk a little bit about next steps, and I'd love to introduce you to Andrea. And there's a student group called Complete Streets at Pitt, which is mostly students. They're a student club essentially, but they're doing some really cool work over in Oakland, and they do welcome folks from the neighborhood who aren't necessarily students. So I guess that is kind of a bike ped committee, although it's like a student group. Anyway, we can talk. I'll follow up with you. Is there anybody else here who would like, I really want to talk more about this? Like you'd like a follow-up conversation with me? If so, put like a +1 in the chat and I'll know to follow up with you. Um, any questions, burning questions in our last like minute here or so? Awesome. I would love to put a feedback form in the chat here because it is always helpful for me to have some feedback. Oh man. And where did I put that link? Um, yep, you'll get a feedback form from me via the email because, oh no, I found it. Here we go. I know this is like a lot of information that I was throwing at you like in 30 minutes, but I hope it was useful. Does everybody feel like they're walking away with some kind of next step that they can take, even if it's just getting in touch? Good. Love to hear it. Please open that feedback form. I would love feedback. I welcome further questions. Happy to like sit down for more leisurely coffee or a beer, go for a ride or go for a walk and talk more about getting involved. But I hope this was a good first intro, and I hope to see you around. All right.
You.
Great.
All right,
Thank you so
everybody.
much. Appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Thank
This
you.
was awesome.
Good. I'm glad.
Looking forward to getting involved. So,
Look forward to having you.
bye-bye.
Bye. Goodbye.